welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show this week in WordPress and Bootstrap SaaS. It's episode 952. We've got a great guest on the show. We've got Robert Windisch, Chief Information Officer at Syde, which says they are Europe's biggest WordPress agency. So I presume that's totally correct. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Multisite. What is it? Where is it at the beginning of 2025? And then we're going to be talking also maybe during the show, a concept around multi-site, and everything to do with Robert's journey in the world of WordPress and being part of a large WordPress agency, and what's that like at the beginning of 2025? It should be a great show. So, Robert, can you just give us a quick 20-second intro of yourself, and then when we go into the main part of the show, we'll delve more into your background then.
Yeah, I'm an agency owner since 2005-06. We started our agency, and I had developer background, and we're doing large agency like clients, biggest names on the planet. But NDA wise, yeah, that's all I can say about that. But it's like very big projects, and we are doing WordPress since the dawn of time.
All right. And where did you get the hat from?
That's the CMS Garden, as you can see here. It's a non-profit organization for the other open source CMS, and that started like 2012, 2013. And if you keep at something like for a decade, people will recognize you for that.
Yeah.
Just as a hint.
I don't need that. I've just got a very instinctive face. I am ugly. So there, Kirk, would you like to introduce yourself to our new listeners and viewers, Kirk?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. My name is Kirk Von Onen. I own an agency myself called Mañana No Mas, and we focus largely on membership and learning websites, working with tools like Lifter LMS, and with the great folks at WP-Tonic.
That's fantastic. Before we go into the main part of this great interview, we've got a message from one of our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Hi there, e-commerce store owner. At Omnisend, we help more than 100,000 e-commerce customers, just like you, sell their products. We're an all-in-one email and SMS marketing platform that helps you reach your customers, grow your audience, and increase sales. In fact, our customers have seen incredible results with Omnisend, averaging $72 in revenue for every single dollar spent. And if you ever have a question, our award-winning customer support team is available 24/7 every single day. That's one of the reasons we have more than 6,000 glowing reviews and ratings all across the web. So get started with Omnisend today and start growing your business with better email and SMS marketing.
We're coming back, folks. Before we go into the main part of the interview, I also want to point out we've got a great resource for the power user and for the freelancer. We've got a created list of the best WordPress plugins and services. It will save you a ton of time. They've all been used by WP-Tonic, or they're supplied by WP-Tonic to our clients. Plus, we've got some great special deals from the sponsors of the show. You can get all these goodies by going over to wp-tonic.com/deals, wp-tonic.com/deals. What more could you ask for, my beloved tribe? Probably a lot more, but that's all you're going to get from that page. So, Robert, can you give us the intro how you got into the semi-crazy world of web development and WordPress? What led you to this spot in your career, Robert?
So I started as a developer for a different CMS.
What? Oh, I will forgive you, Robert, but
yeah. And it's a very European one, so nobody outside of Europe is really knowing that. And then I stumbled in the WordPress community, and as you know, the saying like "come for the code, stay for the people." That exactly what happened with me. So I then was using WordPress for my private website. Got into the German community, asked two very, 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 very stupid questions that were answered like thousands of times. And I asked them again as a person would definitely not do. And they helped me, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. They are nice here. I think I stay. And with my developer knowledge and like the helping other people syndrome I have, I quickly ranked up into the moderator status in the German forum. And then with my developer skills, I could help them then also like get better things and better websites for the German community. And then like the leadership of the German community then came together, was like, what if we do a company? And time's warped to now. That's it.
So what was your development background before you got into the WordPress community then, Robert?
So I was a PHP developer. So it was simply like doing PHP and like backend stuff. And lucky me, not like CSS was not really that big at that time. And I had front end developers in our agency. Like in the old job, I was like in a small.
And how did you get into the world of PHP, if you don't mind me asking?
That was like 1999. It's ages ago. Luckily, PHP 4 was still around, was already around. So I simply was learning PHP by myself, and then like there was so much documentation out there. I learned HTML in 1997. Had my first website up and running in 1997, which I like clearly shows my age right now. And then like simply PHP and JavaScript was something that you then like simply like slowly run like curved into and evolved into, and doing that for a few years to then be in an agency doing like some CMS work, and then stumbling privately into the job that makes more fun, and then from that growing to be one of the like the biggest European agency in that regard. So it's still very privileged and very weird that I ended up to a job where I'm paid to fly to Manila to be at a WordCamp and speak there, which is like it's still insane.
Right. Over to you, Kurt.
Nice. Well, it's kind of serendipitous that we have you on the call today. Just this week, I've had multiple people ask me about using different tools in a multi-site environment. And I'm always amazed at how people really don't seem to understand even what it is or what they're asking for as a business owner. So if you could you give our audience just kind of a quick outline of what a multi-site is and how it fits into WordPress, especially now?
Yes, so the easiest explanation is that multi-site is having multiple instances on one installation. That is it's the easiest giveaway for that. There are good ways of using that. For example, if the plugins and the themes that you're using, if they are kind of the same, if you are like reusing those things. So the easiest explanation I always give is like global brand management. Imagine if you have if you're a company that wants to have multiple websites of the kind of the same content wise with you, and you want to stay with the same plugins, with the same theme, you want to have like different angles, and you want to give different people access to different sites. So what you should not do with multi-site is going like, I can be a web hosting company and I can run WordPress on my own, can have customers use this, and I'm definitely be the one that cracks WordPress.com as a way of like earning money. I'm definitely will outperform them. That is like, good luck, get a time machine, get like 2005 or 4 and try your idea there, and good luck with that. And otherwise, if you have like, for example, universities are using multi-site. So if you have different departments being their own like owner of content and plugins that they can activate from the realms of existing plugins in the multi-site environment, then that's also a good use. So I always work from the examples of like the no-brainers of like multi-site use to explain people what multi-site is.
But it was pushed. I just want to see, I have got another business apart from WP-Tonic that's built on multi-site, and it's based on a SaaS model. and we provide marketing tools and email and text using API with a provider, SendGrid, and it's aimed at a specific industry. So that was pushed for a while as well, wasn't it? Using Multisite as a kind of, I forgot what the WordPress term for it was, but they were using a specific
WordPress as a service.
Yes.
But that's still a use case. That's still
Yeah,
that's still a
is
use
that,
case.
in your opinion, is that a legitimate use case?
Yeah, because you can install a WordPress and configure it right now very fast if you have zip files ready, and you can, like, hosting companies can do this now from a different angle. But if your sites are like marketing sites with a clear cutout of content, with a clear cutout of like themes and plugins, Multisite, if you are ready to like work with that, it's faster. It's simply faster if you stay on the same server, if you want to run this up. Otherwise, because then you afterwards, if you have like thousands of installations basically that are single installations that all need to be updated, that all need to be maintained, that all need to be checked. So if you have one Multisite installation and you, for example, update your SEO plugin, you have it updated everywhere at the same time. If you have a running business and you simply jump up every time a new installation of WordPress, that's a thing later you need to maintain. So that's why Multisite, if it's just like a small website, like a landing page, for example, or a website with bigger stuff, but people care about that, then Multisite can give you this overview, this managing benefit that you have, which you have like plenty of installations, single installations you don't have.
Right. Well, we kind of we provide all the tools and a dashboard, and we provide a simple website as part of the package. But if they want a more customized website, we do it as a separate hosted solution, and we just link the dashboard to the back end of their website if they want to edit their website. So that's how we deal with what you've outlined, because if they want to, it doesn't deal, it's not meant to have different websites that are highly customized, and it's not suited for that. Just another quick follow-through question, and then I'm going to let Kurt do the main question. In the world of Gutenberg and Gutenberg blocks and that, what you outlined, has because of the reality of Gutenberg, has that reality of having like one website, one theme with maybe some minor changes, maybe a selection of quasi-child themes based on a theme in Multisite, in the world of Gutenberg and full site editing, has that paradigm, has that fundamentally changed at all?
No, but it, like, Multisite always gave you the benefit if you have interlocked things. For example, just imagine you have a branding website and then you have like 100 sub-brands of the same brands, but they are locally different in all over the world. With a Multisite, you could have one content repository where you then change the content over, like the same content over all sites. Like, for example, if you do like if you do a UI change, if you have like 100 different installations, good luck rolling this out without problems to all of the 100 sites. If you have branding wise 100 sites on a Multisite, you can have the theme, or you can have, like, let's say, global blocks, and you simply can have content that is simply connected with each other all through your Multisite.
Well, that's what we've done. We've built a set of start themes using Cadence WP and implementing them into a multi-site environment, and it seems to be working quite well. And they have a selection of child starter themes, and they also have a selection of landing pages based on those child themes, based on Cadence. But that's what we've done. Over to you, Kurt, for the next main question.
Yeah, I was just thinking of use cases, right? And so our next real question is, can you give us a real world example of how a multi-site could or was a great solution? But I was just thinking in my own repertoire, like I remember I had a client that had a dating site, but they wanted a dating site that was a multi-site. So they wanted it to be like an overarching site that was like the dating site. And then they had like a site for different lifestyles that they went after. So all of the different lifestyle sites, they were similar, like to your point, similar themes, similar content, similar layouts, but each one was managed separately as its own entity. And I thought that that worked really, really well. But in your use case, especially the size of your agency, could you give us like a real world example of one that was really good?
Yeah, like I cannot give you an URL, but this what are you describing? Like to have like a global brand and simply have different solutions for different countries. For example, the benefit that Multisite gives you is to also like have different like custom solutions for different sites. For example, the Japanese website or like a German, let's stay on privacy stuff. European have different laws, so you could have plugins installed on the European websites that are not installed in the US websites. So that's a benefit of like having the same but then different solutions for different sites. So and that's in the global brand management world, that is the easiest thing. Where, for example, we compete with Sitecore and Adobe Experience Manager, where we simply offer like the same solutions that those big brands need and that they have, like from like global like sporting brands, merchandise brands, like all of those things. They have like a global view of the world, and then they have local differences and local specifications that they need to match. And that's where a multi-site is an easy way for them, for example, to have an overview of what URLs are used, because that's one of the biggest like security thing that they are having, is being able to know where exactly their branding, their CI, their CD is like shown, what URLs they are using, and not have, for example, like a branding agency in Brazil, for example, like starting a website that they need for like 2 months, and then they forget it afterwards because it's paid for a year and the campaign is done after 2 months, and nobody of like the people who like ranked the site up is caring about the site 3 months later, but they're still pointing a URL of the global brand to this WordPress installation. So having that on a central spot, on a central URL spot, and to have overview over that, and to user access, onboarding, offboarding, all of those things, to have it in a central repository, that is simply helping those big brands.
Nice. As you were talking, I was thinking, our work in the e-learning space, I could see how a lot of people want to have training that's in different languages. So we end up having a lot of conversations about translation models for sites. But to your point, some of those language requirements might have different content needs based on the laws and stuff. So maybe the multi-site is a more apropos choice. It's interesting to think through. Jonathan?
Yeah, in the title of this interview, Robert, I kind of multi-site, but I've redone the title multi-site, the ugly stepchild or the hidden unicorn of WordPress. And the reason I used that title, Robert, I thought it was quite flippant, but I also thought it was quite aimed, because there was a time where multi-site seemed to be the flavor of the month in WordPress, and Automatic seemed to be pushing it. And it's not only multi-site. I've been involved in WordPress not quite as long as you, but almost. And I've seen this with Automatic and WordPress in general. There's been like other elements of WordPress that seem to be the flavor of the month, the flavor of the year, and then they're not. And it seemed to be hinted that Multisite wasn't going to be developed anymore. It wasn't going to be killed, or it seemed to be hinted that it was no longer really going to be pushed in that. So where do you see it at the beginning? Is it still updated? Is it still actively improved, or where is it? Because I think a few people shied away from it because they didn't know if it was just going to be killed and died off, if you know what I mean, Robert.
Mhm. Yeah, so the problem with Multisite is that, sounds weird, it's kind of like feature ready, feature done. So it's working while we speak. Like, for example, the last White House was a Multisite because for translations. You have like big universities, really, really huge universities, using Multisite to simply use this possibility of the department stuff. So it's simply being used, but there is not that much like improvement in the development of that. There's like currently something like 170 issues are in the multi-site, in the track for WordPress core for multi-site, and the topics are very niche, kind of like some of them like if you use like an old ticket that was solved like a few releases back was if you have multi-site installed on a port, it will create a problem if you create a site on that, because then the port number will crash something. Like, as you both going like, oh yeah, that's a problem I constantly run into. Not. So that's why it was not really that much of a hassle to have code updates for that. There was we had in the version 5 something, we had like domains. I think it was even the version 4 where we have domains as a standard now in. Like before that, you needed to have a special plugins to have domains overriding the domains in that, and that was solved like ages ago. And even like Multisite was merged in version 3.0, and it got updated along the way because we have component maintainers who still care, and you have still people who care about the code. I think for the next release we have like 3 feature or like 3 track tickets that are up for merging for Multisite, but it's not that like shiny object because it's simply something that simply works. For the most people, when for example I'm at WordCamps and I speak with people and ask them like, okay, what do you have that bugs you with Multisite? The first answer everybody gets like, yeah, nothing. And then you go like, okay, what is the code you have running that works around something in Multisite? And you like ask a follow-up question, then you go like, yeah, there is this small thing that bothers me, but I'm solved it already for like 2 years in WordPress core. And the thing that I currently plan is to like simply get more of those like weird workarounds out of people, and if it's useful into core. But the thing is like there you have some weird workarounds there that it's not really needed for the majority of multi-site users. It's more like for their special needs, for their special like workflows that they are having. And again, with now WordPress multi-site being in core since WordPress 3.0, which is like 2010-ish, 2011, if you now change something in multi-site that was behaving one way in the past and you change it now, you also kind of like break workflows that people having because they simply build on a weird workflow or a weird bug that multi-site is having. So that's why it's such a long running, smooth running solution that is doesn't get that much attention, but like many people are using it very quietly.
Well, a lot of people would like that same case that you've outlined for the main WordPress. Do you think what I outlined to you was in some way linked to use this term, using WordPress as a service, a WASP? This whole using WordPress as SaaS, that was pushed very heavily by certain people in the WordPress community, and it still is there, but it lost traction. Do you think that's part of what I outlined, which you have answered, that it gets the impression that it's a kind of semi-dead corner of WordPress, but the reality is it works so well that there isn't much that needs to be done to it?
So,
Do you
so
think
just to jump in there for a second, so what we need for Multisite, what a thing that is really like dear to our heart as an agency, is when the new relaunch of the backend interface comes. That is the point where, oh my God, yes, we need help for Multisite, because the interface is complicated. Like it can be very complicated for people who easily stumble into this, and they are overwhelmed with the sheer features of the possibilities there. Because that's the thing that I have for conversations with people at events, that for them Multisite can be too big, and it's simply because they still, for example, multilingual. Just take multilingual as an example, and we're using multilingual with our plugin as a multi-site solution, and we need to help people unlearn multilingual like workarounds that they're having with other plugins by simply using like core multi-site feature, and we need to help them like unlearning and stepping back and rethinking how core would do things. So that's why for us, the having an easier interface for like the whole multi-site management, having like a streamlined interface once we are like touching the new backend redesign, and like having easier data exposure to them, helping them easier navigate all these things. That is something that once we are getting there with WordPress, to have the new interface and to talk about the new backend interface and new data structures, that we really can improve the usability of Multisite.
I think one of its strengths is that you do have a super admin, which is one of the things that I really find frustrating with non-multi-site, is you do have this super admin ability of a multi-site, that you can have admin, but then you can have one or whoever is classified as super admin. Do you agree with that? Because I always thought that editor roles, and it's always a painful part, especially when it comes to learning management systems that we're involved in, that, or a page building plugin. Editor role is never powerful enough to do a specific thing, so then you have to give the individual admin, and you want them to have a certain level of admin, but you don't want them really to be able to delete the web or do really crazy things. Am I making sense, Robert?
Yes, but that's where the capability system of WordPress, and you can have like custom roles, you can have like the abilities there to give people custom roles. The problem is it's still you need to have an extra plugin, or you need to like write some code with that, and so that's why it's harder to do this. And there are so many like possibilities. Like just imagine like the phase 3 stuff with collaboration and workflows. Like this could revamp the way how editors are working in WordPress by simply working on the whole website, or working on like more things where they right now just need it's easier for them to have admin rights, because we do not have a real workflow system inside of WordPress to revamp like things in like on this website, and then like simply be like, okay, that's now my pitch, and then someone with a higher level of like rights can go through that and go like, yes, that's possible. Because right now, if you like change something, you need to unpublish a website, because then you like, it's really the capability system needs an overhaul for like having more sophisticated workflows. And that's why currently phase 3 is exactly touching that and the backend interface. So I would just say to you, like, just wait. Yes, it's not a fast pace of like all the changing at the same time, because we are currently talking about like data and visibility in the backend and like new features of the backend interface. But I think with the workflows, we will getting there to have more real world solutions of changing of websites that feels more like 2025 than right now.
Yeah, it really is necessary. It's one of the major weaknesses of non-multi-site WordPress. It's very frustrating to have to give a load of people admin. It's a nightmare, and it's such a security problem. Well, I think we've had a great chat with Robert so far. Robert seems up for it. We're going to go for our middle break, folks. We'll be back in a few moments.
Tired of hosting providers that can't handle high traffic loads? Conversio is here to help. Our platform can handle any amount of traffic, all without slowing down or crashing. With immediate Slack support, performance optimization, and a team that thrives on resolving technical challenges, your e-commerce business is in safe hands. Learn more about Conversio at conversio.com.
We're coming back. We've had a feast of multi-site. Robert seems to get my humour. He's not crying. But before we go into the second part of the show, I just want to point out, if you're a freelancer, if you're a power user, and you're looking to build a complicated WordPress website, and you don't want any arguments with your clients about utilising that expensive WordPress plugin, and you being forced to use just a free plugin which isn't good enough, wouldn't it be great to have a WordPress hosting partner that can provide all the best WordPress technology to you in one plan level? That's what you get at WP-Tonic. We specialize in membership and community large websites, but any large project, we're probably a great partner, and we can provide all this technology so you can avoid those ugly conversations with your clients. If that sounds interesting, go over to wp-tonic.com/partners, wp-tonic.com/partners, and let's build something special together. Back over to you, Kurt.
I'm just going to be honest. I was listening to you guys talk, and I felt a little bit lost on some of the phrases. So I just wanted to.
Am I impressing you, Kirk, with my technical knowledge?
Yeah, I just want to put it out there. I'm thinking.
I'm not impressing Robert. I can assure you, Kirk.
but I'm thinking about our listeners, right, and listeners and followers, and so we have the. What do you think? Some things that you could share with our audience about multi-site that developers don't understand or generally know, and I feel like you guys were kind of bantering on that already, but if I were to switch the mode of that question and say, hey, Robert, to developers or freelancers or startup agencies that are looking to get involved in multi-site, what direction or pathway might you point them towards? Maybe that gives people an idea of how to get started so they would understand the conversation that you guys were just having.
Yeah, so I would recommend simply putting it up for a spin. And now comes a very weird angle with that. If you are currently listening to that and you're not using WP-CLI on managing websites, welcome to the big world. Please look into WP-CLI. I know it's a totally different angle that Kurt that you are looking for. But
can you explain to normal people, Robert, what that is?
Yes. Sorry, developer background. I'm very sorry for that.
Mere mortals, Robert. Can you explain to mere mortals what that is?
So WP-CLI is a CLI tool, which is a command line tool for WordPress. That if you have shell access to your server, I know that sounds big words, just take them in, just breathe them in, and just feel that the next time you click very often in your backend, doing kind of the same task, the same to change 20 users in your WordPress backend and to give them a different role. The enterprise people in WordPress are not doing that. They're not clicking around in a WordPress backend. They're simply writing a line of code, a line of commands in the command line. And the beauty with using that on a Linux server, for example, that most hosting companies have, is you can connect commands with each other. You can say like, give me all users that have like the role author. And now, as Jonathan said, that give all of them admin. Again, bad idea, very bad idea to do this. But if you need to,
maybe a hacker would like to do that.
but if you need to ramp up the level, the admin level of that, yes, you can click in the back end. And now think about multi-site. You need to do this throughout many sites, throughout like the to 3 or 4 sites, to 10 sites, to 20 sites, to change users like access rights. You can simply write a command for that to connect all these like commands with each other. And then you can run this on WordPress, and simply all of those people are changed in all of those sites. So it really is something that can help you work faster. And for the multi-site perspective, as I said, like simply give it a try. Whatever problem you run into, lucky you're doing this in 2025. So it's over like 15 years of multi-site is in WordPress. It's very, very weird if you find a problem that someone did not solve a decade ago or like 5 years ago. Like whatever problem you run into in multi-site, like just ask an LLM. Let's just ask ChatGPT questions. It's so much content out there that you might, if you feel weird with the answer, just check if the answer is outdated. Because again, like the LLMs and all of that stuff, like they have like they can like maybe know not the current version of WordPress or the current version of multi-site in WordPress. So I just give you like, just try it and feel very empowered by it simply being used while we are speaking right now. It's serving universities. It's serving global brands. So if you start with that and you bump into something, someone probably has already solved it.
Are there some really great community Slack groups, other groups out there that you would recommend to freelancers or people that we've triggered their interest in multi-site, but they want to join some online communities? Are there any resources like that you could recommend, Robert?
It's hard because again, like it's done by it's not really a public thing where we have like a central place and go like everybody multi-site go there. It's the normal ways of doing that. If you there's one community that it's not your typical community, and it's not really that everybody could swan into this, but there is WP Campus, which is the community for higher education, which some of them are using multi-site, as I said. I'm not saying everybody go there because like they are not built for like, hey, I have a random question about multi-site. So like you can ping me, you can ping like people as a normal WordPress forums. They can help you. You are surprised how many people know multi-site, and there's like not that much. As I said, like we have this now for over 15 years. There's not that much like people going like, hey, I have this problem. There still will be those people, and the answers are already there. And if you ask a question, there you will be surprised how many people know multi-site and can help you.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, go on, Kurt. Sorry.
I just wanted to say, as kind of a follow-up to how to get started, I've run into this in my own experiments with multi-site. And so and it's not one of the questions, so I'm blindsiding you here, but how important is the hosting that you're using to a multi-site example? And I'm throwing it out there, like I was on one and it said it was multi-site capable. I wanted to launch this really cool project. This was years ago. And then it just horribly failed. It could not sustain what we were trying to do. And then I moved over to a more premium host, and voila, magic, everything started to work. And so as people listen to this and they get intrigued, or they think, hey, maybe multi-site is a pathway for me, how important is it for them to consider a better hosting platform?
Yeah, sorry, that's the blind spot I'm having as an enterprise agency. Feel like we're premium hosts our normal language. So totally, thank you for this question.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that being a core feature, and there is even like some plugins that were coded by having pics run over a keyboard. They also have problems with multisite. Just to touch like this, like if you have a cheap plugin that was like $5 on wherever, it could have problems with multisite. But most plugins that are written good enough, enterprise agency perspective, good enough, that can run on multisite. And the hosting part is that they're still, because of the niche function of multisite and the people who use it, as Kurt, you a prime example of that, were like running into issue, going like, meh, maybe the wrong hosting company. Some website as a service or WordPress as a service hosting companies, they can be surprised by multisite. That means that they are just around for a few years now, because normally, like after a while, they all got 1 or 2 or 20 requests for multisite, and then they look into this feature and they like simply get out of their own way of limiting WordPress. And once they do this, it works. So normally it's simply they're overthinking it. They want to control this. There are some people, as I said in the beginning, like that I do hosting. And then like hosting companies go like, yeah, but please, I want to charge you for all sites you have on your server. So they then limit multi-site, and then they charge you extra multi-site, and then they want to make sure that you don't wiggle your way around multi-site. So that really a premium hosting company or a hosting company who gives you a good vanilla hosting experience, these two can be the ones that don't stand in your way with multi-site.
Yeah, I want to chirp in there actually, Kirk, because I think it's very similar, Kirk, to if you're using a learning management system, especially if you're using BuddyBoss. I think you can get away with spinning it up and trying it, but as soon as you get a user base and people are really using the back end, and it can, if you're using substandard hosting, and it's like Robert said, it's totally reliant also on the plugin mix, and if somebody knows how to set it up. But even with those quantifiers, if you're not on really good hosting, it seems okay until you get those first users, and then it just falls to bits, Kurt. It just descends into a hot mess. And people blame multi-site, but it's a very similar situation to BuddyBoss or a mixture when you're using it for marketing, email, text messaging, and you got tens of thousands of emails going out, whatever. It's that scenario. Back over to you, Kirk. Sorry, I interrupted there.
No, it's okay. And then again, I know I kind of took us off path a little bit in the questions, but I
would never do that, would I, Kirk?
No, I believe that we're coming up to the easy one for us, Robert, is what AI tools are you personally using, like in your day to day? We ask this of almost everybody because there's like this ubiquitous adoption of AI. What do you find yourself leaning on the most?
Yeah, my day job is mostly like dealing with people. So AI is cannot like help me with that fully, of like communicating with people and like reading compliance stuff. And so you cannot simply throw like a 200 questionnaire at an AI with like, yeah, sure, here's my data and please have fun with that. So it's really something that is not like the day-to-day stuff that I really need to work with. But I like have local running AI stuff, like the AIs of like the possibilities, and have like a good machine that like simply can run an AI. So I have like Llama and like other things running locally. Sorry, European here, and so, yeah. Compliance is a thing with us, and otherwise, like I peeked into Claude, peeked into ChatGPT and like the others to simply play with that and to have a like a view of like what is coming and keeping up to date with that.
I've got a quick follow-through question. There seems to be, when it comes to actual development and AI and WordPress, you know, the point of views where we might be in 18 months or 2 years' time, the gulf between different people's views in the WordPress community seem to be enormous. You seem to have a group of people that suggest that it maybe not be the best time to spend an enormous amount of time trying to become a WordPress developer if you're in your early stages, because you'll be able to put verbal commands and it will just make whatever you want. And that seems to be pushed very strongly. And then there's others that say AI, you know, it's nonsense. You shouldn't be doing it. You know, you shouldn't be using AI as a coding tool, or you can, but it's got really limited. What's your own views about this, or have you got any views about this?
So about AI, so vibe coding, for example, like just take the person that have no skills in software writing, can like create code and can create things. There's still a need for architecture. There's still like if you go over the first hump of like a prototype, there's still a use for someone who knows, who understands like an architecture that like survives like future iterations of what you currently try to do. So there's still a use for developers because people can really hard describe what this will be leading to. So AI will help them get like afloat, get like started. But in terms of like architecture of like long standing things that even they can evolve and not break over the long term, like data migration and like all of those things, this can be factored in by a senior developer that like AI currently is not. And so those kind of like leverages of enabling those people, and on the content side, whatever, like WordPress will not go away because people still need a way to express themselves. I know like we all talk about like business websites and all of that, but we still have a huge number of WordPress installations that are normal end users that want to like publish their ideas, and to have this on their own website and not on like some social media platform that will simply can disable them in a whim idea, like going like, no, we don't. Everybody with a starting their first name with a C is now banned. So they can simply do this. And being on the open web, that is something where WordPress still has a saying and still is the most used CMS. And from a development perspective, just to like round this up, from a business perspective, having someone writing you 100% custom code, from a big enterprise perspective, that is a danger. Because if this person goes away or if this person will leave you, then you have a problem that congratulations, you have 100% custom code. So when you go to the next person and going like, yes, I have all this code, I have all this installation, can you change something? They will go like, yes, we can rewrite that what you're currently having, and this will cost you the same amount of number of like money you already spent to get this to a reusable and like standard based system. I'm not saying that the frameworks are not good with that. I'm just saying from an enterprise perspective, custom code is best served if they build on a very generic and code base where people can coming in and going out, and you then have your ownership over your data and not being fully vendor locked into someone.
I think you put that so well, and I'm not going to name names or where, but there's people kind of spewing out, and I had conversations with Kirk about this, and I despise and Robert that I'm not going to go into because that it might be identified, but I think what you've outlined is such common sense, but sometimes common sense is lacking, isn't it, Robert? To say the least. So I'm going to do the last question, and maybe you can stay on. Do you think you can stay on for another 10 minutes for some bonus?
Sure.
But Kirk's got to leave really quick. Give him a break. But my last question is, if you had your own time machine and you could go back to the beginning of your career, is there one tip, one insight you like to share with yourself? Apart from not coming on this show.
So I think the focus more on people, because in my beginning I was focusing on code, and I always have this explanation of like I developed code in the past, and now I develop people because they scale better. So it's from a term of like that's a thing I needed to understand to accept inefficiency, which is the human experience. And I was like in my young age, I was like, yes, I know this better, I can do this, and I came to realize to simply give people leeway, give people enough room to breathe, and to come to the conclusion that I might already saw, but it's like really making sure that they can be the best of themselves, and how can I enable them to become that. And one of the solutions is to get out of their way.
That's fantastic. So we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. We're going to have some bonus content. I'm going to be asking Robert what in the beginning of 2025, how strong is WordPress in Europe? I'm going to ask him about his journey with his agency. What was some of the key points that led to growth and some of the struggles that the agency had to grow to the size that it's had? Should be a great bonus, some bonus content. So, Robert, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and your agency and what you're up to?
Yeah, so our agency is called Syde, and we are Syde.com. So we renamed last year. So that's why if you find a different word and different sounded agency and it sounds weird, that's our old name. We spend money to get a better name. And so if you write my name in some search and you see a picture like that, then you find the right person. So I'm kind of like everywhere, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on whatever, on the open web. I'm everywhere, and I'm looking always like kind of like that. So
I just love it. You said Twitter, and I say Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use.
Is there a different name?
I refuse. I refuse to use that term. I'm never going to use it again. Over to you, Kirk. Sorry. I'm sorry, Kirk. I am sorry, Kirk. So, Kirk, what's the best way for people to find you and what you're up to?
For business, anything Mañana No Mas leads to me. MañanaNoMas.com or Mañana No Mas on X. But if you want to reach out just to make a connection, the best way to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm the only Kurt Von Onen on LinkedIn. So when you find me, you know you've got the right one.
Yeah. And like I say, we're going to do some bonus content. You can listen and watch and see all the hats that have been worn during this episode by going over to the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. Like I say, we're going to be having some bonus content, so you'll be able to view and listen the whole interview on YouTube. We're going to be back next week with another great guest. I've managed to rustle up, like Robert, some fantastic WordPress and SaaS business guests for March. I'm sure you're going to find some great knowledge by listening to these great interviews. We will be back next week. See you soon. Bye.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Do you think WordPress, obviously I'm English, but I've lived in America for about 18 years and I live on the West Coast. So the show has an emphasis around North America, but I go back to Europe almost every couple of years to see my family, and I normally also hit Europe as well. Where do you think WordPress is in the wider development community in Europe? Is it still attracting developers and interest, or is it growing, or is it just stable? Is it declining as attracting new talent, new people, new interest, Robert?
Yeah, so I know I just like, for example, someone reached out to me if I will be in an open source conference in March, because they want to use WordPress and they have questions. So this sounds very specific, but the users are still looking for WordPress to solve their problems, and so you have so much content out there for WordPress that WordPress still solves so many problems that people have with whatever page builder you want to have, whatever solution you want to have. With the sheer size of our ecosystem, it's the easiest way to simply onboard yourself to content and to be able to manage them very fast. So it's because the other way would be to have a content repository of a markdown file on whatever, but end users and marketing people, for example, still use WordPress to simply get their site up and running.
Where do you see the main competition to WordPress? Because I think you obviously, because of your agency, you're in the middle to higher level of quasi-government with private or non-profit, educational. In my own mind, I get a picture of the kind of clients you're dealing with. How do you think on the slightly higher level than the small to lower medium business attitude, which is more about getting leads? Where do you think, because you've got some very expensive corporate level CRMs that you're competing with on the open source, and there used to be in IT departments in corporate level enterprises. I got the impression there was a bit of a dislike to WordPress around security, around it being open source. Is this changed, or has this changed? And where does it compete, you feel, with some of these large enclosed CRM systems aimed at corporate level clients?
So the closed source system have an advantage over us. They can say their source code or their code is safe, which is again hilarious. If your code is closed and you're saying you are secure, sure.
Yeah.
That's the first time I hear this in decades. For us,
well, they're very good at saying it, though, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. From a selling point, I totally get that. And if your IT department believes that, congratulations for being totally reasonable to be laid off. Because if you can prove where is your stuff coming from, who is what source code is in there, and all of these things, and keep in mind, open source won. So tell me the web server where this solution is running on. Tell me like all the solutions. Even like big closed source companies will definitely on their internal systems use open source because, again, I repeat, open source won. So we, for decades now, being the level of minimum quality that someone needs to have. The other way is just like marketing saying like it's not secure. We have people looking into, for example, WordPress, looking into the code of WordPress and all the plugins constantly, because security researchers need to constantly prove that they are security researching. So that's a thing that they need to do. So WordPress, and because with us with our usage, we are constantly reviewed. Code is reviewed. Some people like, for example, PatchStack is doing like fuzzying and other things to just make sure if there is source code that breaks. So from a sales perspective, from a pitch perspective, having an open source system like brings you no vendor login, because you can like differently use things. And with the size of WordPress, it brings you the ability of whatever tool you want to connect to WordPress, your CRM, your product management system, your data, your DAM, your document management system, whatever you want to use, they probably already have a WordPress connection, because you are not the first person that asked them to do this. So that's the benefit of the size of the WordPress ecosystem, that everybody who does like content publishing and all of those things already bumped into WordPress and already has a solution or like a roadmap item for solving something in the WordPress space.
When we touched upon this, or I touched upon it. I think you semi-agreed what I was outlining about. There's certain trends, there's certain things that get hot in the WordPress community, and then they don't. I probably use the wrong term, because I could come across as a bit as I was playing it down a bit. They get hot and then they seem to die down, and I seem to suggest that what happened to Multisite. Another area that seemed to be really hot, but now it's still there strong, is headless WordPress. And it seemed to be bandied around that it's a kind of solution for everything, if you know what I mean. Do you see where I'm coming from with what I've just outlined? And what's your own thoughts around this whole concept of headless WordPress?
Yeah, it sounds shiny. I totally get that. It's the headless is the benefit for developers to not be able, not needing to touch WordPress. So let's say it that way. So I see where
they don't have to get dirty, do they, Robert? They don't have
to, So
they have to touch any PHP, you know.
They can play in their JavaScript world and never touch one line of like backend WordPress code. The problem is with headless, you need to reinvent the wheel. So everything front end that WordPress already solves, you need to reinvent, all like the error states, all like, just imagine like rebuilding a WooCommerce checkout with headless. Have fun with like all different things, and now someone adds a new plugin to your WordPress that is like on the headless, and you need to then check, okay, where is the states of that? How can I get all the error messages that can disappear? How do I get them out of the system and show them in my very fast headless way? And our solution to that is simply don't run slow code. So that the one big thing with headless is like it's fast, and I can tell you like our sites are also fast because we do not simply run slow plugins. And the other solution, the other thing that where headless is also like a way is like a security. And if you handshake every line of code that you send onto the application, which is not the normal way, like not a end user cannot do this. But from an enterprise perspective, that's simply a security way of doing that is by reviewing and auditing everything that goes into the application. You can simply have fast and secure installations, and that gives you almost all like of the big shiny like bullet point items of headless. And then the only way is like if your content repository is something completely non-WordPress, then headless, there is still a chance out of there. But like the major like companies, they just want to have fast websites, no vendor login, and want to have security and scalability, and all of those things can be done with WordPress if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think you put that really well, because it's obviously a case to case, but I just got this impression it was kind of pushed as, yeah. I think the same thing applies for APIs, because I call it API detitus. That's how I call it. Obviously, there's a place for it, but if there's certain, it really applies in my own mind to the situation to some extent with headless. This idea that you can just call endlessly external APIs, and there's a balance, exactly the same balance as you outlined around headless, but there's this doctrine, that's the only word I can utilize, where calling APIs and more APIs and more APIs in the end is not helpful. Am I making any sense here, Robert?
It really depends. From an enterprise perspective, you have code that, or like you have content that is not on WordPress. So you depends on like a ticker of something, like content, like images and all of that. That's all APIs somewhere. If you need to connect that to the WordPress space. So for us, an API connection to a WordPress, to a managing system, that's a normal daily business. And you just you don't overuse that by simply like using caching and like all the paradigms of you writing good software. So for us, headless is more like a marketing thing, but connecting APIs outbound and inbound is something that is very useful for our audience.
Yeah, so I think you're saying is that the business necessity is a lot more there than, yeah, I was given the wrong impression there a little bit. I do agree with what you've just outlined there, Robert, but I've just been involved with some projects where the client seemed, because you are reliant on these external services, but I suppose if you're at the type of clients you're dealing, they've got enterprise written agreements and they have enterprise level support and it's just a different environment when you're pulling these APIs in. I've just dealt with a smaller clientele, still reasonably large, and it came with their internal developer team, where they had this idea that you can just keep calling in data from these different sources, and if one of them breaks, it can turn a bit nasty pretty quickly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
When it comes to the business side, with your agency journey, I don't know if you're prepared to do this. I'm not asking for specifics, but on the journey in growing this with your other co-founders, have there been one or two crucial turning points that you faced some internal, external major changes? And in a broad way, maybe that come to mind, because we tend to remember our disasters and overcoming problems and our successes, or maybe it's just me, but that's what I remember. And maybe you can point out one or two on your journey with your founders, and how you dealt with them and how you overcome them.
Yeah. So one of the biggest like learnings we had in the early beginnings is something very counterintuitive. We raised prices, and that was like that was a scary thing in the beginning. Like we were like slowly growing as an agency, and then we were like, okay, we need to make a jump here in pricing because we're underselling right now. I'm not saying like overcharging your clients. I'm just saying like when you really clearly look in the mirror and going like, do I undersell myself right now? Do I simply not factor in things that I simply give for granted out, and I like over commit to hours that I should not do? So that was the first thing with us. What was really scary to raise prices, and the result of that was that we had like C clients, like smaller clients that were like eating all our hours, and we overcommitting to them. They left us, and we had bigger clients coming to us and like finally trusting our pricing, because before they were like, I'm not sure. Like they do so many things, but they are charging that price. Something is off with them. So once we had our like higher pricing as in the past, those clients came and they stayed, because then like our full experience then matched. So we simply then were like being the same at all time, and they simply were like, okay, we understand that you charge what you're doing there. The other thing were we signed a Fortune 500 in the beginning of the pandemic. Like as a 100% remote company, the pandemic was not really like acting like changing the things that we are doing. We just like with this bigger client, we simply had a growth spur in like the pandemic times. And what we needed then to unlearn, like in 2023, for example, is we allowed siloing in the pandemic times, because the goal was to deliver value to our clients, and we allowed them to be separate entities in our company to like work together. But if you need to deliver, like go on, deliver that. And what we then like have to brought everybody on board was to like lower the barriers between those silos, those agents. Like it was the same agency, the same teams. Like they but they hadn't, in the pandemic, they had not really that much of like exchange between each other. There was some exchange, but not really like, hey, let's work together, let's make more standards, and let's move this forward. So that was the point where we after the pandemic really make sure that we, with our growth spur, can bring back the collaboration inside of a company. Like we had collaboration in the past, but really like hone in to, hey, talk with your buddies, talk with your colleagues in the company, and exchange ideas, and make like the company and the stuff that we deliver to our customers, make that better by collaborating more with each other.
I think that's fantastic. I think we're going to end the conversation now. Robert's got to go and do some more work, but it's been a great discussion, Robert. I think we've covered a ton of great stuff. And you have to come back later on in the year and we have another conversation, because I've really enjoyed this. We're going to end it now, folks. We will be back next week with another fabulous guest. We'll see you soon. Bye.